In this lesson, we're going to factor simple trinomials that have a common factor as well. So we've looked at both simple trinomials and just common factoring in previous lessons. In this lesson, we're going to put both of those together. So common factoring just means that we're going to find the greatest common factor of every single term in the polynomial, and we're going to factor that out, which means we're going to divide each term by that number and variable. So that's the first thing that we're going to do today, and then we will be left with x squared plus bx plus c, and there's a flow chart we can follow here based on the c. We're going to look for numbers that multiply to c. Now, if c is positive, then we're going to look for two factors that add to the b value. If c is negative, we're going to look for two factors that differ by whatever b is. Then we'll write the variables and the factors in the brackets, and to figure out the signs, if the factors have the same signs, so if the b is positive, then both factors are positive, and if the b is negative, both factors are negative. Now, if c is negative, then we're going to write the variables and factors in two sets of brackets, and this time the factors are going to have different signs because a positive and a negative will multiply to give us a negative c. So if the b is positive, then the larger factor is positive and the smaller is negative, whereas if b is negative, the larger factor is going to be negative. So we'll take a look at some of these, and hopefully that flowchart will help make a bit more sense. So the first thing we're looking at, we have a 2, a 4, and a 16. Now the greatest common factor there is 2. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor a 2 out. So inside my bracket, I'm going to write what is left. So I have 2z squared divided by 2. That's going to leave me with z squared. Then I have a positive 4z divided by 2. That's a positive 2z. And then I have a negative 16 divided by 2, which is negative 8. So now what I want to do is I want to find the factors that will fill in our two sets of brackets. So recall that because z squared is my first term here in the bracket, z times z will give me that first term. My two factors are going to multiply to give me this negative 8, and I need to find two numbers that also add to 2. So I am looking for two numbers that multiply to a negative 16, and then those same two numbers need to add to a positive 2. And sorry, not 16, but 8. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 8. So I can have negative 4 times 2, and negative 4 plus 2 is equal to negative 2. That's not correct. I'm looking for something that adds to a positive 2, so that doesn't work. But it is the right number. So it's a 2, it's just negative instead of positive. That means the numbers I picked are correct. I just need to flip which one is positive and which one is negative. So this time I have a negative 2 plus 4, or 4 minus 2, and that gives me a positive 2. That is the correct combination of letters. So subtraction of 2 and an addition of 4. Those are going to be my two signs there. So because the c is negative, I'm looking for two numbers that are apart by 2. So multiplying to a negative means this b value, our two factors have a difference of 2. So 4 and 2 are apart by 2. And because this is positive, the larger number is the positive number. All right, let's look at another example here. So this time I have 4, negative 36, and positive 80. And I'm looking to completely get rid of this a. The 4 and 36 and 80 both divide by 4. So that's going to be the first thing I do. So what I'm left with is h squared minus 9h plus 20. So because this c is positive, I'm going to be looking for factors that add to 9. And because it's a negative 9, they're both going to be negative numbers. So I'm looking for things that multiply to 20 and add to a negative 9. So 4 and 5 multiply to 20. They also add to 9. And if they are both negative, because this is negative here, negative 4 times negative 5, and a negative 4 subtract 5 is equal to negative 9. So that is the correct set of factors here. Now, if that's a little bit tough, then you can just look at all the things that multiply to 20. So we have 4 times 5, 2 times 10, 1 times 20. Those are all things that multiply to 20. And when you then add those two numbers up, so in this case, 2 plus 10 is equal to 12, and that's not what we're looking for. 1 plus 20 is equal to 21, and that's not what we're looking for. If you tried 4 times 5, 4 times 5 multiplies to 20, it adds to 9, which is the right number, but wrong sign. So anytime we have the right number, but our sign is wrong, each of those numbers need to switch signs. So this positive 4 becomes a negative 4, and the positive 5 becomes a negative 5. So two negatives still multiply to a positive, but these two add to a negative 9. So that means that subtracting 4 and subtracting 5 is what will go into my two sets of brackets. So I have 4 bracket h minus 4, h minus 5. Now order doesn't matter. So if you wrote h minus 5 in the first set of brackets and h minus 4 in the second, that is fine. All right, let's do a couple more examples. So here I have 3a squared plus 21a plus 18. Each of those numbers is divisible by 3. So I'm going to factor that out. That leaves me with a squared plus 7a plus 6. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 6 but add to 7. And 6 times 1 multiplies to 6. 6 plus 1 is equal to 7. So that is the correct set of numbers, a 6 and a 1. And because they're both positive, inside of our bracket we'll have an a plus 6 and an a plus 1. One last question. So we have 2, 8, and negative 24. All of those are divisible by 2. So we'll factor out a 2, b squared plus 4b minus 12. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to a negative 12 and add to a positive 4. So because my c value is negative, I'm looking for two numbers that are apart by 4. One will be positive, one will be negative. So we're going to try that flow chart here. So now I have my common factor, and then I'm going to have b plus or minus something and b plus or minus something else. So those are the two numbers I want to figure out. So two numbers that multiply to 12 and are apart by 4. 6 and 2 are apart by 4 and they multiply by 12. So now I need to figure out which one of them is positive, which one is negative. Because my b value is positive, the bigger one is positive. So 6 is positive and the 2 is going to be negative. Oh, sorry. 6 is positive and 2 is negative. There we go. So then I have negative 2 plus 6, or 6 minus 2, and that's equal to a positive 4. So minus 2 and plus 6 are our factors. So b minus 2 and b plus 6.